Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. It's the Fimi X8 2020 edition. Finally got one in. Actually got two in. I am going to be giving one of these away in an upcoming video for you subscribers. So don't forget to make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss this giveaway, because it will be coming up very soon. I know Christmas is coming up, so I think it would be great for you guys to get a brand new Fimi X8 2020 edition since I got an extra one. So in this video, this is going to be the first of the series. I have the old one over here. This was the original edition. We're going to do a unboxing and comparison and setup. I have my iPad mini. Yes, I finally got an iPad mini here. Set it all up, really inspect it in depth like I usually do, get a feel for how it looks compared to the other one. And in the next couple of series of videos, we're going to be doing flight testing, range testing, and then we're going to be doing like cinematic video testing. So stay tuned and let's get started with an in-depth look at the initial unboxing, inspection, and setup of the Fimi X8 2020 edition. Okay guys, so this one here is the exact box, the package I'm going to be giving away. So I'm going to put this on the side and save it for you guys, keep it brand new. I did get a second one, and this one was from a different company. It comes in this cardboard box because this one actually has a case and some extra peripherals and stuff. This is probably the one I'm going to keep and give away the other standard edition. First things to note on the box, it looks like they're touting this one to fly another 4 or 5 minutes. This one says 35. I believe the first one was only 30 or 31 minutes. So if you guys follow my channel, I just tested the Autel Evo 2, which is touted to fly for 40 minutes in optimal conditions, but I could only get about 30 minutes on that one. If this can fly for 35 or even 33 or so, that would be pretty awesome. That would be above and beyond a lot of the other drones out there that claim they can fly this much. I remember the first one claimed it could fly for 30 or 31 minutes, and it actually could, but that was really pushing it. The first edition over here on the right, that was pushing it to beyond, like really getting close to the worst possible battery conditions you could get. Definitely going to be still pushing this one to see if we can get 35 minutes. Larger range too. You can see here it says 8-kilometer range. The original I believe was around 4 or 5. So that is a drastic range increase, and it also has all the same stuff, the smart track, the foldable, of course, portable design, 3-axis gimbal, and 4K HDR video. The original didn't have HDR video, so that also upgrades. Let's open it up and get everything that comes in this kind of a backpack package. That's everything in there. You can see how this version has this nice backpack already pre-packed up. So don't forget guys, I will have the link in the description of the items I review in my videos and also my filming equipment, so you can have a look at those. But a quite nicely done little backpack here. We have a front pocket. It's just a large area to store things. I like the kind of faux leather design into like this denim design, kind of cool. Just flipping it over, we have a nice padded handle here on the front. On the back, we have another kind of pocket. This is like something for manuals or maybe your iPad to slip in. No zipper here. There is a large strap that wraps around the whole thing, so in case you wanted to carry it on your shoulder, adjustable shoulder strap. And that's it for the outside. Let's just unzip it here and see what comes in the inside. We have another quick little access pocket here. Again, like a mini iPad mini size. A little strap here we can unstrap. It does have this little foam on top to kind of protect everything. And there it is, sitting in this nice situated backpack. We got 2 batteries. We have a controller over here, instruction manuals on top. There's the 2020 edition Fimi. It looks like we have some extra propellers in here and the charging equipment here. You know, not quite as slimline as some other drones, but that's a pretty decent size. I mean, it's still camera bag size. Very small. You can see my hand in comparison. It's just a little bit larger than, say, like, you know, like the Mavic type of backpack. Anyway, let's just start with pulling everything out. So we get 2 bags, and so that's a total of 6 propellers, guys. So you have 1 full set. Doesn't look like they include any on the drone in the package, so we're gonna have to have this set to be on the drone, and then we have 2 extras. I always like to see maybe them giving a whole full set. And this one doesn't have all the obstacle avoidance, so especially with one of these that doesn't have all those obstacle avoidance, like say that Evo 2 I just tested, where it's pretty much impossible to crash if you have those sensors on. It is nice to see an extra set. So 2 is good, but not Perfect. Pulling out the batteries, these should be possibly a little bit larger batteries. We got 2 of them here. So these are 4500 mAh and a maximum of 13.05 volts. So like a 3S high voltage battery here. This they're going with. Just looking at the connector there and little tabs to snap in and pull the battery out. So very similar, looks just about the same as the original batteries. There is the light and the power looks like they're about 60% charged. Moving on, let's get the charger and stuff out. We got 3 cables to hook to our controller, and there is the charger. So just your basic charger. We have our connector here and just sliding in 1 battery at a time. No multi-charger in this kit. See how that goes on, just slide it in like that. Power brick just plugs into, this is a USA plug, and we got their little figure 8 connector here. Just plug it in right to the bottom and that goes into your wall. So these ones should be about an hour to charge the batteries. Here's our little bundle of cables that connect from the controller to your phone. As you can see, we have USB-A right here on this side. And this is great, you know, one of the things that was bothering me in the Autel Evo review I just did is they didn't include a lightning adapter for Apple. But Fimi is including a lightning adapter. They're including a USB, I believe that's type 2. That's the USB mini or micro. And then this one here is for the USB-C, or I think it's type 3. So we have all of the variants in whatever kind of phone you have. Okay, so a couple more things in the box. Here is the controller. So a little bit of packaging material there on the top. The controller looks exactly the same as the old one. Here's the old one here. You can see that there really is no difference. All the sticks are stored in the same place. Just a quick inspection. Yeah, nothing at all is different. Flipping it around to the back. Exactly the same. So we're getting obviously more range, apparently, supposedly, but exactly the same controller, kind of the same thing that Autel did with their Evo 1 and 2. No cosmetic difference in controllers. And let's get into the main event, guys. Here it is, the Fimi X8 2020 edition. Focusing on it here and really inspect it. This also looks almost exactly the same, if not exactly the same as the original version. So the form factor they're keeping perfectly the same. One of the gripes I had with these guys is they never give you a gimbal cover. They always just have this kind of cheesy foam thing. So what I did, one of the things that I got is I ordered this from Banggood when this was coming in. It's just basically an aftermarket little smoked gimbal cover. So that's definitely something you might want to get extra. I will have the links to this stuff in the description. It just baffles me that they don't throw something like this in the box, you know, so you have something to protect your camera. Anyway, kind of moving on, I'm noticing a little bit of protective coating here on this little visor. Now this one does not have any obstacle avoidance sensors either. The old one did not. We were all hoping that this one did, but it doesn't. So that's kind of unfortunate. Does have a little bit of a better camera, better range, and supposedly a little bit better flight time. So just inspecting the rear here, we see the vents. While we're doing this, let's just bring up the old one. This old one does have a battery in it, but let's just compare. As you can see, there's no perceivable difference at all in these 2 different designs. Well, 2 different models, same design. I don't see any difference. Go ahead and comment below, guys, if you see any differences. But really, I mean, one on the top is the old one. Even the camera just looks exactly the same. Not seeing any difference whatsoever. Checking out the bottom. Remember, the old one here is on the right. Everything, even the camera venting is all the same. All the sensor setup on the bottom is all the same. Screw holes, venting, everything is exactly the same. So they really didn't do any kind of design change from the old to the new. So in some eyes that'll be disappointing, but if you really did like how the original looked, maybe that's not so disappointing to you. Anyway, these things opening up, so we're opening up the rear first. These ones don't fold like down or anything like the DJI stuff does. This is kind of more like the Autel way of opening things, as they just come straight out like this. So there's all 4 of our arms all the way out. And this thing is really, really light when it doesn't have the battery in it. Just took the battery out of that older one over there, and this is the older battery. It's exactly the same too. I was expecting maybe a little more mAh or higher voltage, but this is also 13.05 volts and 4500 mAh. So really the exact same battery. So all they're doing is modifying the specs a little bit. Anyway guys, that's how it looks out of the box. Same exact as the original version. No difference cosmetically at all whatsoever as far as I can see. If you do see something, give me a comment down in the description down below and let me know what you find in this little Easter egg hunt for differences. But let's go boot this thing up. I'm going to charge these batteries, or at least one, and the controller. Let's see how it looks on the interface of the iPad mini. This is a new one, so it's going to be kind of interesting to put it in the controller and see if there's, you know, any changes and go through all that, see how it looks. Okay guys, so continuing on, I went ahead and charged the battery up. As you can see, we have a full charge. Seemed like it took about 45 minutes. It was right around 50 to 60%. And what this thing does is it goes all the way up and then it stays lit and then it turns off automatically. And I think what that means, it's probably balancing the cells. So if you want the fullest charge, I'd recommend just letting it go until the lights all turn off. And that means the cells are all balanced perfectly. Same with the controller. The controller was about 50 to 60% charged as well. If I press the power here one time, you see how it's fully charged. They both seem to charge take about the same time to charge. Bust out the iPad mini here, and we need to download the Fimi app. So we're going to go into the App Store here, and we want to search for Fimi Navi. There's a 2020 there. There it is. So we'll just click on it and get this thing downloaded. Okay, now that the app is downloaded and on the iPad mini, we need to connect this thing up. So first things first is setting up the controller. First, we take out these little sticks. The thumb sticks are stored right over here on the left-hand side. Just going to dig those out and screw them into the gimbals for control. Lift up the antennas like this. These can only lift up that high, and then they only go down like that far, and of course they can come out flat. And if you guys didn't know what the controller does, I guess we'll go over a couple things right now. This is your regular flight switch on the left, and then you can switch it over to return to home. Move it over to the right. This is for your automatic launching here button. That's your power off and on, of course. The Fimi is kind of like DJI, where you press and hold. You see how that comes on. And then press and hold to turn off. This is a little thumb pad for menu options and also quick options within when you're flying. You can assign this to I believe like 4 different options, and it also does a click in. It does have 2 rollers, so one of them is going to be like your EV setting roller. It just keeps rolling, and then this one over here on the left is going to be your gimbal up and down. And this one does have 2 assignable buttons on the bottom, kind of like most drones do have now, where you can click in the A and B buttons for different functions. Regular USB and a micro USB for charging. This one here is going to be the one you plug in to your phone, and that's going to be charging over there on the left. Okay, so let's get this iPad in here. So I need to find the cable that, the lightning cable that this came with, which is awesome. They do include it in the box. So here's what we do. We plug it into the iPad first, and you need to grab the controller and put it in this little notch on the right side of the controller. And when you put it in the notch, you also put the cable wire in this little notch on the side. You see that there? So that when you do push this thing in, you basically have it like this, kind of centered and up a little bit, so that cable connector goes in the notch. And then you just push your whole iPad, and there you go. You see how it just kind of fits right in these little notches on the left and right side. So this is great. A lot of the newer drones nowadays, they don't even come with a cable that cable situation that fits perfectly. You either have to have your own iPad or iPhone cable, and those are really long, the ones that come with them, if you know what I'm talking about. So this is a really good setup. I really like this, and it does, I mean, your hands are on both sides of your screen. Your screen's not way up here in the way of the antennas like a lot of the other drones are, and so you have your antennas that are unobstructed for the signal going out to the drone. So I really like this setup. I hope other possibly manufacturers can follow suit with something like this, because a lot of them they either barely squeeze into the controller, like the iPad Mini on the Mavic series can really barely squeeze in and it's down on the bottom. The new Mavic Air series can't even fit an iPad Mini on the top. It only can fit the larger phones. So this is a really good controller setup, I feel. It's really working pretty well. Okay, so now that we got that controller in there, we just need to install the battery. Really simple. It only goes in one way. Connectors on the back. Have it go down and in the top bay. Push, and just make sure that's pushed all the way down and it snaps in. Just before we power this on, guys, I might as well show you how to put the propellers on. So we've got 4 motors, we've got 4 propellers. Some of the propellers, let's zoom in here to one of them. They have no markings, you see, between those screws, and some of them have that little gray dash. So you're gonna have the same corresponding markings on the arm. See how there's blank there? And on the front arm here, you're gonna have that little gray dash. So all you do is put the same corresponding propellers, and these just have 3 little notches. Really simple. Just put it into any 3. And then the ones that are blank, twist, you just push down and twist clockwise, and then they'll pop back up. Just make sure that's locked in. Same thing for the arms that have little notches and propellers that have little notches. These go down and in, and then you twist these counterclockwise and they pop back up, and then you just make sure they're locked in. Okay, and we are finally ready to power up. So controller first, press and hold. Get a beep and the red light blinking. Moving on over to the Fimi X8, we just do the same thing. Press, you're gonna see the lights come up, press and hold. Lights come on up, and let's watch this thing kind of boot up and see what the gimbal does and everything. You can see that the gimbal is booting itself up and self-centering, and that controller light's still blinking red. So we're just waiting till it connects, and there we go. See how that controller light got a nice white light, and that means everything is connected. We got a green light on the left and a red light on the right. And just real quick, you can see how that camera is moving up and down. If you guys are new to drones, that's how you adjust your camera to go up and down. Cool, so it's booted up and it's acquiring satellites on its own. Now it's time to get this iPad screen going and plugged in right into the USB Type A. Right there on the bottom, just plug that guy in. So it's not launching automatically, so I'll go ahead and just click on the Fimi 2020. So I guess I just might as well go through this with you guys like I normally do, just to get a full in-depth, you know, process here. So we're just pressing OK. You're gonna have to log into your account, either your Apple ID, your Twitter account, or your Me account. I believe I already have a Me account, so I'm gonna try to click on that here. So that was easy enough. Just had to enter my username and password, email and password, and let's enter our device. It wants to use your GPS location, which is important for the app, so I'm going to allow when using the app. Privacy of your photos, so that's so you can download them to your device and it can cache everything, so we're going to continue there as well. Allow access to photos. There we go, and we have our FPV. Let's turn it around a bit so we're not just looking at my legs. There we go. There's a couple of guys there. Little stormtrooper. Alright, cool. So there's our interface, guys. Looking good. It's in the evening time, so it's going to be a little bit dark. But there we go. So unable to enter GPS mode. That's probably because my iPad's right on top of it and we're in the house. In the back of the Fimi X8 over there, it has a yellow light, so that's indicating caution, kind of equivalent to the message there on the top. It's a yellow sign. Visual positioning. If we hit the button up here, we have a little menu that pops up and says VPU mode warning, light of flight environment is too dark. Okay, yeah, that's because it's the evening. So the visual positioning, which detects the ground and stuff and obstacles in front of it, I guess, on the camera for tracking, might not work that great. So you have to acknowledge you get it there. GPS is ready to go. We have our satellites up top here. We got 14 actually in the house. That's great. It just locked on to a bunch of them. We have our video signal, Wi-Fi, and our control signal both maxed out because we're nice and close. Our battery level is 97% on the drone because we've been doing all this stuff. In meters, it looks like I'm probably going to want to change this, but at least we have the option for you guys that like metric. It's defaulting into metric, height, distance away from us, and our speeds up there. Then we have our camera, little bar, sidebar here with options, switching between video and pictures, just pressing that. You see how it's switching there, our record button, and then our gallery to see what we have taken for videos and pictures. We got a little robot icon here. This is for like the smart flights, so you have to be in the air to use all of these except for the waypoint function. So you can actually plan your waypoints. This does waypoints. Of course, something that's missing from DJI's stock software on their cheaper consumer drones, but look at that, this one actually has it. So if we click on waypoint, we can do beeline map, in-flight, or history. So if we click on that there, it tells you, it walks through all this stuff. We'll do this in the flight test. I'm going to skip that for right now. But there's all of our smart functions for following. We got a droney, we got smart track, which is kind of like the Infinity smart tracking I love. This one has that. We have tap to fly. You may have seen my Evo 2 recent flight test where you just tap in the direction you want to go. This one does not have those obstacle avoidance sensors, I don't believe, so maybe we'll try that, try to fly into a tree or something and see if it avoids it, possibly through the camera algorithm. Maybe it can detect obstacles through its camera now. We have the orbit, which is always great. That's probably my favorite feature of these drones, is just doing a nice flying around orbit of something. We'll check the tracking on that, if it can even orbit while it's tracking, possibly in the smart track mode. A spiral is just kind of a modification of the orbit where it does like a close and then out spiral and up. And we have our flight modes. So you got cinematic mode, tripod mode, course lock, and fixed wing. So a lot of the same modes that other drones has. If we scroll up here, it does have a SAR mode. So this drone does have that mode where it can show you the coordinates on the screen. So if you are doing search and rescue, which is what SAR means, the operators can have that coordinate when they are identifying people or things so that they can relay those coordinates to the rescue team. Clicking back on the screen, and we have just a little takeoff button. You can do it from the screen, or of course we can press this button over here on the right. So you have that option. We're going to cancel that because we're not flying right now. So it doesn't come with an SD card, kind of a little bit of a con, but this drone is so cheap. I think it's around $400. So I'm not going to knock it that much because it is a cheap drone and it has a lot of these functionality. Definitely want to get a high speed one. I do have all those things that I use that work with these higher definition cameras in the description with all my devices. It is defaulting to 4K 30 frames per second here. If we click on that, we can change that up there on the top. So 4K 30 is the highest. You can go down to 24. We can do 2K up to 60, down to 24, 1080 up to 90, down to 24, and 720, 120 to 100 frames per second. So you have a lot of options there. There is no 60 frames per second on the 4K on this drone. Keep that in mind. This is a cheaper but quite functional drone. Continuing on, we have general. So these are just kind of our filters: general, vivid, black and white, F-log. We have our camera settings. So right now it's in auto, but you can adjust if you go into manual. You have your ISO, you have your shutter speed from 130 all the way up to 1250, and then our ISO from 100 all the way up to 3200. So if you are into adjusting those settings, you can do that with this drone. EV setting, we can click on it and adjust that if we wanted to. Or this is where you should be able to grab this top roller and start clicking it. You see that EV is starting to change, making it darker if I go to the right and making it lighter as I roll to the left. And then this looks like the angle of our gimbal. So I can't click on that, but it's showing us right now it's at 1.4 degrees. If I just grab my left stick here and push up, oh wow, we can go a little bit higher than level. So it's defaulting to 10 degrees higher than level if you wanted to. There's a little stormtrooper bust. And then we can go down to the negative. So you see how that's just rolling. Nice and smooth here on our FPV. Let me turn this guy back around. So I like to kind of do this where I just move my hand in front of the lens here, and you can see how smooth the FPV. So reasonable latency, probably only a couple hundred milliseconds, and you can see that it's nice and smooth. There's no jittering really. It's nice and smooth FPV. So we'll be testing that at distance in our flight test and our range test. If you do click right on the VPU though, check this out. You get a quick drone status, GPS normal, compass, magnetic environment, IMU, battery, and so all these things are already good. So that's a quick way to check if you have any abnormalities. It should also give you a warning on the screen if you do have any to start with. But let's go on our map now. It looks like no problems right now bringing in the map. We have just a street map right here, and if we wanted to go into, say, our satellite map, let's see how we could possibly do that. Unfortunately, not seeing anything right on this map screen to change that, so we'll go check that out in the settings. But when you're in your map mode, all you do is press over here on the bottom left. That's a real-time video, and it makes your video big again. Just like all these normal drones, they all kind of have adapted the same kind of menu system, which is working really well. Awesome, guys. So now that we've kind of seen everything on the screen, the only other thing we have to check out is the settings up here, the main settings. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that little gear icon, main interface up here. Then we have control function, gimbal function, battery, and then we have kind of our extras down below. So the first thing I want to do is go into Imperial, which will give us feet and miles. Great to have the option for you guys that like your metric or grew up on metric. Go ahead and choose that, which it comes default with. If you like your Imperial or grew up on Imperial measurements like me, go ahead and switch to Imperial. So at least they give you that option. That is honestly one of the first things I look for in the settings when I'm checking out these drones. Anyway, getting into the settings, now we can see our flight speed is in mile per hour. We can choose here on this scale. It comes default at 22.5 miles per hour. If I slide this up, I can go up to 35.8. Slide it all the way down, I can go to 6.7. You can limit your flight distance. I have it off to no limit, but you can go ahead and click on if you wanted to, and then you have a drop down right here, and you can go anywhere from 33 feet all the way up to 16,404 feet, and it just won't go past that point. For my range test, I'm probably going to take that off. So I'll go ahead and leave that off, a little disclaimer there. Limit of flight height, the max you can go is 1,640 feet. The minimum you can go is 98 feet. Height of RTH, so you can adjust that anywhere from 98 feet up to 394 feet. That's if you lose signal or press return to home, or it wants to come home because of battery. You can go and do that. I usually like to be right around 100 feet. This one doesn't have any of those front obstacle avoidance sensors, apparently, so it may hit that obstacle. So you want to kind of know the area you're in and adjust that return to home when it will automatically come back, how high it will go, and then come straight back home. Beginner mode, that's a good feature. Basically, it will limit your speed, distance, and height between 30 and 100. I forget, it doesn't really say what it does in this menu, but it's usually around there. It's just like a sphere of limitation of how far you can go when you're in beginner mode. There's a sport mode option. So if we click that on, it's going to go faster than what we can manually adjust, 40 miles per hour. So fly with caution, of course, going that fast, 40 miles per hour. Sounds like the maximum it can go. Turn off the VPU and all the intelligent flight modes, so you can't do any of those in sport mode. We're going to leave that off for first flight test. You got precision landing. So that's going to use either the bottom sensors or the camera to land more precision on the landing pad. We'll try that out in the flight test. At least once before you fly, like say you're at a park and the first flight, you want to make sure you don't have any interference or magnetic or metal objects around you and do that calibration. Always want to calibrate again if you go to another state or fly cross country or drive cross country and you're going to fly again. Say you take a trip on a plane and you want to get some footage of the country or wherever you are, go ahead and do a recalibration for the first time you flight there, and then do it again when you come back home. You don't really have to do it in between that unless there's some weird interference. Fail-safe to be, if you do lose connection, usually want it to return home to the place it launched, but you can also choose land where it is or hover where it is. Not sure why you'd want to do those things unless you're doing a one-way trip. We got our home point. Looks like a little paper airplane. If you wanted it to set the home point where it currently is, or you can go ahead and click that. Say if you're on a boat and you move the boat, you're getting some footage of the boat moving, and then you anchor, you're definitely going to want to click that little person icon, because that means it'll make sure it flies back to where the controller is, where you are. You wouldn't want your boat to be moved and then you forget to set that home point where the controller is, and then it tries to land where your boat used to be at the beginning of your launch. Update dynamic home point and smart track. What this does is if you're tracking and for some reason runs out of battery power or loses connection or needs to return to home, you want this on if you want this thing to land next to the person you're tracking. So it's always going to be updating its home point while it's tracking the subject. So just keep that in mind. If you're moving from your location, say you are driving in a vehicle, you start at one point, you launch, you get in your vehicle, you drive away, you would not want this to just land back where it started, right? You'd want it to maybe, when it's running out of battery power, land where your vehicle currently is. Enable backward flying. So this is, you want to be careful because this doesn't have any rear sensors, but this is necessary for smooth tracking and it moving backwards while it's tracking things. Just make sure you have a clear area behind and above and below the aircraft. Then we have gain and expo tuning and gain and expo tuning sensitivity. So if you wanted to mess with your expo, it's just the sensitivity of your sticks and how they control on each direction. You can go ahead and adjust that. If you're having trouble with jerky photography and you wanted some more smoother shots, you can tune that. So that's really a great option. Moving down here to the controller, we got RC calibration if your sticks are out of whack. We got our stick mode, so we got mode 2. We can do 1, 2, and 3. I like my mode 2 where my throttle is on my left. You can switch those around to mode 1. Gives us a little beep, and you can see what the sticks do in this configuration. Or mode 3 gives you a little "Are you sure?" confirmation. You can see what this stick configuration does. Here's the functions that are assigned to the up, down, left, and right parts of this joystick. So as you can see, that's what they're assigned at. If I click on one, I can change that button to any one of these functions here. Clicking over here on the left hand bar to the gimbal, calibrate your gimbal. If it's out of whack, the horizon is not stable or level, go ahead and get it on a perfectly level surface at home and do that calibration, and that should fix your problem. Gimbal pitch speed, it was actually defaulted at 50. I just dropped it down to 30 because I like to have a little bit of a smoother cinematic gimbal than they usually come with. Down to the battery, really awesome. We have all of our cells of our battery there. We can see what their voltage is individually. We can see our remaining power. These you probably want to keep on unless you're really you need to struggle and get home. It'll automatically return to home only when it senses there's enough battery power, which you can usually cancel on the screen, but we'll see how that works in our range test. Land when the battery is only left to land. So this is the emergency landing. Well, it will automatically land just if it thinks it just cannot go anymore. You could always turn that off at the expense of destroying your battery, say to get home, so you can at least control it and your battery may be toast, but at least you can get your drone home, which is usually more expensive than the battery, right? So whatever you want to do there, you have the option, and then you can reset all that stuff. Going down to the 3 dots, this is kind of like the extra little settings. We can go into our flight records to see how many times we've been flying. It goes into a flight list where it's going to have all your flight logs, kind of like what DJI does. And you can sync those to the cloud as well, as long as you're signed in. Here we have the option for the satellite map and standard map. Here's where you can just default check it for a firmware update. It seems to do that in the splash screen in the beginning, so we shouldn't be able to do that. I just clicked it and it doesn't have any updates anyway. Maintenance mode, I guess if you're having issues, you can go in there and you can kind of test all these sensors out and make sure they're working okay if you're having issues. And then we have a little live button here where you can log into your YouTube account or your custom social media account and kind of tell it to do like a live broadcast. So that's pretty cool. So there's the map now showing up on the bottom. You see that? So now it's streaming in all the satellite. I really love how you can bring in the satellite. But the thing is, you're going to have data to do this in real time. It may be able to cache some of the images. So let's, for example, do this. We'll go ahead and we'll zoom in to an area we want to fly at. Say you don't have internet connection and you want to have the imagery still. We'll go in there. I'll disconnect my Wi-Fi. This is a Wi-Fi only tablet. Let's see if we go out of the app and back in, if it saved that real quick. So starting the app again and entering the device. This is really, really good to know for people that don't have data connections, if it will save your map. So we'll go back into the map. I do have my Wi-Fi off. You see it up there? No Wi-Fi in the house. So it cached the map. So great use there, and feature that a lot of drones nowadays don't have, that are at this cheaper price point. So that's great. Just before we wrap this up, guys, I wanted to show you something. I just restarted it, and it looks like there was an update. First one I've seen since I've been out of the box, and it must have just come out because there is a camera update, and it says it fixed some bugs. So I'm just going to go through this with you real fast. It looks like it's 20 megabytes. So let's go ahead and start the download. And let's just see how this performs. So that was super quick because obviously I'm on my wireless at home. Download complete. So I click download complete. Let's enter device. There we go. So now we get a little thing that pops up that says firmware update. And we're just going to go ahead and update. Start updating here. So I'm just clicking on it. And let's kind of see what it does and how long this takes. Looks like it's going like 1% every 2 seconds. So I'm just going to kind of leave it alone, and I'll pop in when it's just about 100%. Okay, we're just about 85%. I'm noticing some fast flashing on the front arm lights, that red and green light over there. And there we go, 100%. Looks like we are updated, and update is complete. So all we got to do is click update complete. And usually you want to reboot after this, but I guess it did. So that's it. That's a pretty quick and fast update process. As you can see, when we went into the main menu here before we launch, go back into that real fast. So the update just comes up here and it tells you need to update every time you start it up. So quick and easy update process. Just as a precaution, I would always just go ahead and restart everything after you complete the update. Even though it didn't tell you to, I'd go ahead and do that. Okay guys, I think that is going to wrap up this unboxing, inspection, setup. And we also did a little bit of updating, so that was cool to see all that in one video. All in all, looks like exactly the same as I was saying before. No cosmetic differences whatsoever. It looks like what they're going for with this one is maybe some refinement because they like the look and the performance. Just some improvements under the hood in the electronics, range, camera, flight time. So we'll see if they refined all that, and if it really does do what they say it can in the next flight test. Again, stuff I review of here down in the description down below, so make sure you check those links, and I'll also have the other videos down there in the links for this whole series. So don't forget, more to come with the X8 SE 2020 edition. We're going to be doing a flight test next, range test, and see what kind of cinematic video we can get. I always like to do kind of a series on these guys, so make sure you are subscribed. Go ahead and check that notification bell so you can receive updates on my videos, especially because we're giving away one of these brand new in the box right behind me here. I have it unopened, and that's going directly to you from me. Whoever wins this, and so make sure you're ready to enter that video when it comes out. Anyway guys, thanks for tuning in. I know that was long but very in-depth video, so thanks for sticking with me to just see everything this thing can do, and we're going to explore more in the videos to come. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.